Good morning. I would have to admit Rev Nick was having some trepidation because I was talking to him. Margaret and I just returned from 2 weeks in Europe, and last Sunday we were in the High Kirk St. Giles in Edinburgh, and Nick was concerned that maybe the Presbyterian bit might come through. I promised him it wouldn't. So, this morning's reading is from the letter of Paul to the church in Corinth. Corinth at this time was the largest city in Greece, and this young church was having some internal pains. We read 1 Corinthians chapter 9 at verses 24 to 27 from the Message translation. You've all been to the stadium and seen the athletes race. Everyone runs, one wins. Run to win. All good athletes train hard. They do it for a gold medal that tarnishes and fades. You're after one that's gold eternally. I don't know about you, but I'm running hard for the finish line. I'm giving it everything I've got. No lazy living for me. I'm staying alert and in top condition. I'm not going to get caught napping, telling everyone else all about it and then missing out myself. Thanks be to God for the reading of this, his holy word, and to his name be the praise and the glory. Amen.
Thank you, sir. We're always okay with a little bit of Presbyterian. I mean, we're the United Church of Canada. We formed out of this ecumenical desire, so step it up next time, Alan. Where we draw the line is me with robes. God be with you. How are we? We're good? Can we keep going? Okay. So, for the past 2 weeks, no, that's not true, 2 months, we've been exploring what our tradition calls the spiritual fruits, which is this list of 7 characteristics, behaviors, patterns, dispositions that our tradition would say are divine. And we don't say that in the sense where they're exclusive and only these 7 things are divine, but we say it in the hey, pay attention to these. There's something about these that are divine. There's something about them that are holy. And the idea being that when we practice them, when we embody them, when we incorporate them into our lives, we too become holy. And we'll just kind of pull over here for a second, because when we say that word, if you've been going to church a lot, right away you're probably going to think holy equals perfect. That's bad math. Holy was never meant to mean perfect. What holy really means is just other, or different, or even weird. You stand out, you're in contrast to everything else around you. You've got a gravity to you that kind of pulls you in. It's meant to say you're so different than anything else that you must be of God. That's what holiness means. And the idea with these things is they help us become holy. They help transform what's in here so we can go and transform what's out there. We can create new lives that are deep and full and meaningful. And we can help create this world where everybody has enough and everyone has a place. That's why these things are important. And so for 2 months, we've been talking about them. And today we get to the last one, thank God. And you get bored of them. You do these things and you're like, this will be amazing. And then by the last one, you're like, I cannot wait to talk about something new. But before we get into it, adults, I have an apology. Because last week, when the kids were in here, I might have implied that the kids would know all 7 of the spiritual fruits, and you adults would not. But after the service, I was quickly informed with proof that some of you know all 7. And so I'm sorry for thinking so less of you. I now know that you know them. Thank you for showing me that and proving it. I stand corrected. But like I said, we're at the end. And the one we're doing today is the one that I've been putting off. I've been procrastinating hard on it, which is hilarious because today's fruit of the Spirit is, say it with me, self-control. The irony is thick. Where's Alanis when you need her? I thought that was a funny joke. And I was trying to figure out why I resisted this one so much. Like, I really did not want to do it. Like, I almost did just not include it. We were going to move on to other things today. But then some college and career people were like, self-control next week, right? And I was like, fine, we'll do it. And I realized that I don't want to do it because self-control, if you ask me, doesn't have the same vibe as the other ones. I mean, you look at the other fruits and there's kindness, there's gentleness. You got to say it this way too, like there's love and joy and patience and goodness and faithfulness. And they've got like a woo to them. They draw you in. They have a certain characteristic to it where you know right away something is special about these. But then you say self-control. Self-control is right? And all I feel is like a finger pointing right at me and saying, no. I feel in my body like it gets smaller, it gets tighter. I feel my heart kind of armor up. Because right away when I hear self-control, I think purity culture. I think diet culture. I think about the worst takes on addiction and mental health. I think of all these things that just aren't wooing, they're like pushing away and like, no, I don't want to talk about this. This is not, doesn't feel good, and that finger just points in my face. And I think I resisted it. And I'm going to guess this is true for a lot of us. Let me know. I resisted it because when we talk about self-control, so often what we're actually talking about is repression and restriction. It's this idea that we have to repress and restrict certain parts of us, that we have to almost mistrust our feelings and our thoughts, that we have to alter how we naturally act. Because, and here's the rub, if we act certain ways, if we think certain ways, if we say certain things, if we are certain ways, if we're not perfect in controlling and meeting a very particular standard, if we don't repress and restrict it all, then we're not good enough. Then we're not worthy. We're not loved. We're not accepted, certainly by others and God, but definitely not ourselves. And self-control has this very harsh, negative, kind of dark vibe to it. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Anyone ever feel that? Yeah, right? You don't have to be alive very long to figure this one out. And we all probably know that narrative. And if you've been a part of particular church cultures, you definitely know what we're talking about, but it exists in our world. And while self-awareness and certainly healthy habits is important, here's a problem with that take of self-control. It's powered by shame. And the thing about shame is it has no place in a spirituality that's grounded in love. It doesn't work. If shame is the engine, God is not driving. If shame is taking you somewhere, get out, because it's not going to be anywhere that's life-giving. Shame and a spirituality of ours, they can't coexist. But yet, here's this list of things we get in the Bible, and self-control is on it, and it's saying, that's holy. And so what do we do? What do we do with it? Because this word is going to make us want to run away, not run towards. And I'm wondering if now is a good time for us to kind of pull over for a second, because this will happen a lot in your faith and spirituality. You will enter into this kind of intersection of sorts where you are presented with something and they're saying, run towards this, but everything inside of you is like, no. And not just in the, that makes me uncomfortable, that's gonna be hard kind of way, but in the like deep knowing, I want nothing to do with that. That's just not, no, that's not true, that's not real, that's bad. You'll run up to these things, especially as you grow in your faith, and especially as you develop a relationship with God, as you learn God's feelings and God's voice, you'll run into this a lot. And this thing will happen where you come across an idea in the Bible, for example, or you hear something from someone like me, or you're online, and you feel like you have to accept it because a pastor is saying it. It's in the Bible. But the thing is, at the very same time, your soul is saying no. Your soul is saying, no, that's sus. I don't want anything to do with it. And you're like, what do I do? And you're caught between this tension. One that I know you've all thought about because you've all asked me about it is you read the Bible and God is presented as an angry, wrathful, violent God. And you're like, what gives? Like, I can't believe in that God, and yet it's in the Bible, and I'm supposed to believe in the Bible. Did God just suddenly change over here? What happens? And you're stuck in this push and pull. And so many people just give up, and they walk away from the faith. And I want to kind of offer something to you for that Father Greg Boyle talks a lot about, and he calls it the mystical filter. And you have to say it like that because it's just fun. The mystical filter. But it's good. It's a really healthy, beautiful practice to do. Yeah, you need the hand motions too. And the mystical filter is where we recognize that sometimes things in the Bible are just things in the Bible. It's where you recognize that sometimes the thing that Nick says are just things that Nick says. Or that influencer online is just an influencer online. That maybe what they're saying is truth, like capital T truth, isn't actually capital T truth. Maybe what's in there isn't actually inspired. And the mystical filter is where we pause with what we're hearing and we ask ourselves a really important question. Is that of love? Is that loving in the extravagant, indiscriminate kind of way? Is that pulling me towards life, or is that leading me out of life? And your job as people of faith is to kind of filter in the stuff that isn't life-giving and the stuff that is life-taking. And you got to figure out which one is which. And as Father Boyle says, once you know the God of love, you fire all the other gods. Which is such a great phrase. Once you know the God of love, you fire all the other gods of love, and you just get good at it. You're just like, yeah, I don't believe in that God. I don't think that's true. And you put down this take or responsibility you might feel like, I have to sort this out. You just put it down. You don't worry about it. It's not the God of love. It's just some human 3,000 years ago saying something. It's not true. It's not true. Trust this. And this is why a Shane-powered idea of self-control doesn't work. It's why we can put it down, because it does not fit within a loving God. It does not fit within a spirituality that is designed to give us life. And so we got to come up with a better take. We got to filter that one out. And so back to the question. What is a healthier notion of self-control? Willpower. Yeah. And turns out you're kind of right. And we don't have to look too far. We just have to go back to the very passage we get self-control in and look at the Greek word. And all we have to do is look at this word up here. Enkrateia. It's a noun. It's where we get self-control from. And enkrateia, this is where it gets fun. It was a word used to talk about someone who is free. It was a word used to talk about someone who was free, who wasn't ruled or controlled by their impulses and passions and thoughts, or conforming to the ways of the empire. It was a word used to talk about someone who is free. And that's what Paul is saying self-control is. That's what he's saying is holy. Next slide. Self-control, he's saying, is the choice not to be ruled by our craving and impulses or what the empire tells us to do, but instead to be led by love. That's what self-control is. It's not so much about repression and restriction, but about having the freedom to choose who you are and what you want to be a part of. It's about the power to choose who you are and what you want to be a part of. So yes, willpower. And this is really big. This is really big because it not only gives us a shameless way to hold self-control, but it also points to a really beautiful and big and liberating truth that we all need to remember. On Friday, I went for a walk with Lewis, and I was listening to Glennon Doyle's podcast, We Can Do Hard Things. If you don't know it, check it out. And Liz Gilbert was on it. And she was talking about her new book. And oh my God, beautiful, beautiful conversation. A friend called it aggressively honest. And it was this deep and moving conversation about love and relationships, addiction and healing. And at the end of that conversation, Liz Gilbert said this: I believe that I am loved beyond measure by a magnificent, complex, amused God who has given me power over practically nothing. Right? I know. I mean, we could sit with every word in that for like a solid hour. But then she went on to do what Liz Gilbert does, and she pointed out the most important word in the whole sentence. And she said it's practically. That the most important word in that entire sentence is the word practically. Because the thing is, we do have power over something. We have power over one thing. We can actually control something, and that something is ourselves. Yeah, us. Ourselves. Yourself. Myself. Ourselves. Which is a tough lesson to learn, right? Yeah, I'm still learning that one. But it's also, once you grasp it, so liberating and so empowering and so freeing, because the only thing you can control is yourself. The only control we have is self. The only thing we can control is who we are and what we are a part of. If you've done any work on yourself, if you've been in any kind of recovery program, you know this. It starts here because it's the only place you can start. And I think this is what Paul is getting at. I mean, this is Jesus' whole invitation. Is to choose who you are and what you want to be a part of. And since it is the only thing we can control, why not take it seriously? And if we're going to take it seriously, if we're going to actually control that one thing, why not use it for life? Why not use it for good? Why not use it well? Why not use it to become someone who is patient and joyful and kind and gentle and loving and faithful and good? I have to think that Paul ends his list with self-control because he knows that self-control is the most important one, because all the others, they come from that choice. I'm going to be these things. I am going to try to be holy, because that is where life is found. That's where everything clicks, and that's where I get to be a part of something bigger than myself. And it makes that passage that Alan read so much more understandable. We can get what he's saying now. Because as he said, it's a race worth running. It's a race worth winning. It's worth all the effort and the discipline and the work to be someone who chooses to be free and be a part of what God is doing, because that is where life is found. That's where everything begins to hum. That's where everything begins to click. And life is found. And so we're going to end with this. We're going to end with some questions for you to think about. And as we sing this next song, you can sit and reflect on them. You can stand up and sing. You can go light some candles and get some prayer in the back. Do whatever it is that you want to do. But let's just be honest. How can all the energy that you are putting into controlling someone else go into controlling you? What kind of power do you need to put down? How can you choose to be free? How can you choose the way of life that God wants you to live? How can you practice this healthier, more life-giving notion of self-control? What small step can you take today? How can you be 1% better today? And your job is to think about that, is to practice that, knowing that in doing it, even if you fail, you will be a better, more alive person than when you started. So my friends, the choice is yours. The only thing you can control is you, because you have control over practically nothing. God will take care of the rest. You do you. So may you struggle well, and may grace and peace be with you.
This is a newer song to us, so I'm going to play through it a little bit and let you listen along, and then ask you to stand in a bit to sing along with us. But you really think about the words as we sing it.